Here's Brody Brazil.
I truly believe that if this were any other league, considering what MLS is right now, it would be a huge deal, a huge conversation. There would be a lot of debate going back and forth both ways. But since it is MLS, it may not be getting the attention it deserves. They are considering flip-flopping their schedule of when the regular season is and when the off-season is, basically to the tune of a 180. They want to join more of the international soccer schedule. Right now, they're kind of opposite of that. And there are huge ramifications. There are some instant wins. There are some big question marks. So we will consider all of that in this video, as I also kind of feel a sore hamstring coming on of my own there. Messi, I cannot get my leg up that high. That's why he is who he is and I am who I am. So right now, what you need to understand is like the 2025 MLS regular season. It started back in late February. It's going to conclude October 18th, but then the playoffs go far beyond that. In fact, last year, the playoffs went to, I think, the 9th of December, and there are some huge breaks in the playoffs that they have to take that they don't want to take anymore. More on that in just a second. But international soccer, and doesn't really matter what league, they're all a little bit different, but generally begins in August and generally concludes in May. So we're talking about overlaps at the starts and ends, but on the opposite sides of the spectrum, basically, of when MLS is and when international soccer is played on different continents around the world. So here's the very latest. The MLS's Board of Governors has authorized what they're calling a second phase of exploration into a schedule shift. Now, again, they're intending to align themselves with the international soccer calendar. And it's not just when the other leagues play, it's the FIFA breaks they have to take, it's the transfer windows that they have, it's the international tournaments, right? Because MLS is really going against the grain right now when it comes to what the rest of the world is doing. And at first, right, when MLS started, and that was kind of a strategy, that was kind of maybe a chip that they had to go in their favor. They were more exclusive, but now as they get bigger and try and actually compete for a little bit of attention and a little bit of market share, also as they compete with like what the football, NFL, and college season have become in the fall, it's very difficult to have your playoffs with American football going on at the very same time. But they're also considering, MLS's, their Board of Governors, they're also considering some evaluation of their regular season format and their playoff format. So kind of everything is on the table right now in terms of doing this flip, doing this 180. They've established this because it was talked about even 4 or 5 months ago that maybe they would do this after the 25 season. Maybe they would do the flip in 26. They're saying now that any changes would not take effect until 2027 at the earliest. And by the way, doing that cutover, that's also not going to be easy. There's no easy, simple, good, great way to just flip-flop your schedule and not have a real shortened, condensed season or mess up 2 seasons or have a season that doesn't matter. You're going to have a season in there that's pieced together and not in a great way to get to the ultimate flip that you want to do. So let's talk about the playoff problem and that break that they have to take in November. So last year, there was a approximate 20-day break between round 1 and the semifinal round of the MLS playoffs. I couldn't explain this any better than Yahoo Sports did, so I'm going to lift this from their coverage from last year. Quote, "And as currently constructed, there is no good way to fit all 4 rounds between international breaks, the windows in which FIFA requires clubs to release players to their national teams." So that happens, one of those times happens right in the middle of MLS's playoffs. There are 3 such windows spanning 9 days each in early September, mid-October, and mid-November, one every 5th week on the current FIFA calendar. MLS often, controversially, plays through the FIFA breaks in March, June, and September, but rightly concludes it can't force teams to contest playoff games without their stars. So the playoffs go on hiatus from November 11th until November 23rd after round 1 and lose significant momentum. Can you imagine any other pro sports league in North America? Baseball, hockey, basketball, football? Now, college does this, and people always look at college and say, this is crazy. They have a last conference game, and then there's like a month until their next bowl game. But I guess that's always been universally understood. I've never understood that. I think you run the risk of injuring players after not playing for a full month in college football, but MLS basically has no choice because of this FIFA window. And yeah, last year there was about a 21 day break for most teams here where they could not play a match and continue the playoffs. This is supposed to be, for a number of reasons, the spectacle of the season. Ratings, attention, sponsorship. when the games matter most, when you don't want players to get hurt, and if they're going to go have a window to play for their international teams, their national teams, I should say. This is like all concluding at the worst time of the year. Pausing your playoffs, again, who does that? There's also the player problem of the offseason for MLS versus the regular seasons of international soccer. So the MLS offseason, right, December through February, and it's hard when I'm saying all this to think about it on a calendar, but the league's biggest transfer window, like any sport, is its offseason. The problem is MLS's offseason overlaps entirely with the international soccer regular season. So if you're looking at players that maybe you'd like to acquire from a different league in Europe or elsewhere, it's so difficult to acquire a top-flight player when they are in the middle of their season that they're already under contract with a different team. There's not that crossover. There's generally not that ability to poach or get those players. There also is this issue. If you're MLS, right now, you're benefiting mainly because at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, it might get cold and wet, maybe some snow for some of the opening games. But generally, you're getting spring, summer, and fall weather for games, which here in the United States and North America, I know there's Canadian teams too, that's great. That's kind of optimal for stadium availability. And yes, by the way, there are some MLS teams that share their stadium with an NFL team. So you're not competing with the NFL team that uses the stadium, like in Seattle or Charlotte, but you're also getting good weather, so hopefully attendance benefits. Here, if you go to the international schedule, you would be shifting to the middle of winter in North America. Now, maybe that works better in Europe. It's still winter. Like winter is winter no matter where you slice it. This is something that those leagues have always dealt with. It's something that MLS has never dealt with. And so you would be considering like, what's the impact on games? What's the impact on attendance? What if we have a snow out game and it's just well enough to play, but nobody wants to go? Those are big gates that those teams would be missing out on for selling and tickets and merchandise and everything else. In terms of the overlap issues here, now I'm just looking at MLS versus the other main 4 pro sports leagues. And thanks to Brooksgate, who does a tremendous job doing these graphical representations, normally of baseball stats and information, but I'll take the work here from Brooksgate on the calendar year of sports of the Big 4 as well as MLS. Now, this also doesn't include college sports or NASCAR or golf. Those are big deals too. But let's just look at MLS versus the other leagues. And you notice here how September, October, November, December, that is always dominated by football. We'll talk about that more in just a second. Baseball has never had a choice. They have to have their World Series in October. And yeah, sometimes even it gets overshadowed by a football season. Football is so big, NFL and college, that you really don't want to be messing with September, October, November, December. And look where MLS is right now with their playoffs, by the way, are in red. I should have said that before. All the league playoffs are in red. Right now, you're putting your playoffs in the most difficult time of the sports calendar year for attention and everything else. And you're taking a 20-day break. So shifting the playoffs alone might be worth this, but if you move, you're going to be more in line with kind of a basketball and a hockey schedule. So maybe you could have your playoffs in May to June. Maybe you get your MLS Cup taken care of right before 4th of July or something like that. I don't know the timing of this. They can be flexible. Hopefully, you'd like to find that window of time every year where you can have the stage to yourself. And hopefully that's what MLS can accomplish. I truly think, if we're talking about ratings competition here, MLS is likely more up against American pro sports leagues than it is other soccer on international ranks or anything else. I don't know that the competition here is MLS versus other soccer. I think in North America, it's MLS versus those main 4 that I just showed you here. And yes, the NFL and college, September through December, it's tough no matter who you are. Baseball, basketball, hockey, it's tough to go up against that beast of football. But if you're head-to-head with international soccer, even at the same time of the year, think about this. Are you really head-to-head with international soccer? The time zone difference is going to benefit MLS viewership because you're never going to have matches kicking off at the very same time as, say, a European league because of the time difference. You're really not going to have that direct competition because of the time zones. Again, the bridge issue, how do you get one season from the current schedule format to the new format? Do you do a half season somewhere in there? Do you split? Do you have a short off season? Do you go right from one to the next? The bridge of this is going to have to be very creative to invert the schedule and time of year. It would impact at least one season, maybe two separate seasons pretty greatly. Oh, I spelled seasons wrong. Let me fix that. Hang on. See, it's so much better when I can just do that myself. Anyway, you understand here, you can't go from one time of the year to another and not have a flip of the switch somewhere that gets kind of ugly and messy. There's no easy or great way for a smooth transition here. So they're just going to have to bear down whenever they ultimately do want to make that switch. Here are my takeaways. There's no perfect solution or fix here. If MLS goes ahead with this, I'm not going to say it's the worst thing in the world. If they stay how they currently are, I'm also not going to say that was the worst decision in the world. There's no one-size-fits-all decision. There's nothing game-changing and earth-shattering that's going to happen here. I think we need to understand that. I think a lot of people are in favor of this move. They see the benefits outweighing the negatives, but I don't know that there's one oh, this is a slam dunk, a home run. Why am I using every other sports term? A touchdown. So I don't know that there's one answer to this, but the playoff pauses alone, if you can get your playoffs away from NFL season, and if you can get your playoffs away from that 20-day break, that alone might be worth shifting MLS's schedule. Again, if we're talking about what can you fix, what can you solve, what's going to be different, this one alone might be totally worth the idea of shifting your schedule. I also wonder if MLS would have an image boost, having its season being played at the very same time as international soccer. Maybe as a soccer fan, you're able to look at all of the sport in general, all of the leagues in general, with the exception of right now, okay, maybe hardcore soccer fans are paying more attention to the international leagues, and then they kind of take their own off season while the MLS is having the regular season. But I want to close it out by saying this. All of this is a significant gamble. I'm talking about this in casual conversation here. This is a huge deal. To reshift the seasons of your league and the timing and the gamble you're going to take, and does this work? I mean, what if it doesn't change much? Okay, that's kind of a not bad scenario. What if it benefits you in some ways? That's a great scenario. But what if there are some drawbacks here that we either haven't thought of or go worse than planned? It's hard to reverse this again. Then you got to flip the switch all over again. And it doesn't project a great image of leadership of the league and where it's going. So my point is, this is a pretty permanent thing. If you're going to commit to this, you got to go with it. And I don't know that anybody can assure you that, oh, it's definitely going to go over exactly how you plan. So let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. I actually got the idea for this video while I was doing a live stream recently, and some people mentioned it, brought it up. It wasn't necessarily on my radar. I did some research, some homework on this to study up, to understand what's been going on here. MLS is taking this seriously, and I think there should be a lot more conversation surrounding this. It's not something any other pro sports league is considering, but MLS definitely is. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up on this video, and don't forget to hit subscribe to this channel. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.